The prairie stretched endlessly, gold and dust mingling beneath a sky brushed with the softest pinks of dawn. Ella walked the narrow path to the homestead, her boots stirring the dry soil, her dress swaying with each careful step. She carried only a small satchel, and a heart tethered to both hope and nervous resolve. At 20, she had learned early that courage was measured in quiet acts, in the insistence to move forward despite uncertainty. Today, she sought help from Ethan, a man whose name was spoken with a mixture of respect and caution, a rancher of 38 years, strong and silent, whose life had been built on routine and solitude. Her request was simple, 2 days of guidance, but it carried within it the weight of vulnerability. In return, she promised the modest service of cleaning his cabin, a gesture of humility that belied her quiet determination. Ethan emerged as she approached, tall, broad-shouldered, the early light catching faint silver in his hair. His gaze swept over her, assessing, wary, as if measuring the boundaries between himself and the world. He had lived long enough to protect his heart, to value solitude as both shield and companion. Yet, beneath the stern exterior, a patient soul waited, ready to notice the rare brightness of one who moved with both grace and courage. For a moment, they regarded each other in silence. The wind carried only the sound of rustling grass and distant bird call, a quiet witness to this unspoken negotiation of trust. Ella entered the cabin with a tentative steadiness, her hands adjusting folds of her dress as her eyes roamed the worn wood, the rough shelves, the small cracks where sunlight spilled in golden threads. Ethan lingered near the doorway, watching her movements, the careful sweep of her arm across a dusty shelf, the reverent way she set a pot down, the rhythm she found in simple tasks. In those motions, he began to see her not as fragile or inexperienced, but as someone capable of quiet fortitude. Side characters, neighbors passing along the distant trail, paused to look, whispering about the audacity of a young woman entering the dominion of a man reputed to be untouchable. They did not see what Ethan began to notice: the deliberate, patient kindness that threaded through her actions, the subtle strength in her soft smile, the courage that carried her past hesitation. The day unfolded with a rhythm of work and observation. Ella scrubbed floors, dusted shelves, and polished the rough edges of the cabin, each movement measured, each breath careful, her presence becoming part of the pulse of the place. Ethan watched from the doorway or leaned against a post, silent, yet increasingly drawn into her world of unassuming diligence. When he showed her how to mend a fence or coax a horse into the corral, her attention was complete, her efforts precise. A small smile would escape her lips when she succeeded, and Ethan, unaccustomed to soft laughter, felt it linger like sunlight on cold boards. In this quiet collaboration, a bond took root, slow and deliberate, woven through shared labor and the mutual recognition of competence and character. As evening fell, the sky deepened to indigo, stars emerging like scattered lanterns. The cabin glowed softly from the hearth, a warm refuge against the encroaching chill. Ella carried the final basket of laundry to the porch, her movements slower now, reflective, as if the day had altered her perception of space and possibility. Ethan followed, hesitant at first, but compelled by the pull of something he had long denied within himself. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of pine and distant wildflowers, and for a moment, the world was distilled to the porch, the cabin, and the two of them. Then, in a voice low and steady, Ethan confessed what had been quietly growing in the margins of their time together. He spoke of admiration, of respect, of a feeling that had slowly revealed itself amid the mundane tasks of a shared day. Tears gathered in Ella's eyes, not of sorrow, but of recognition, of a truth she had felt stirring long before words could name it. She lifted a trembling hand to brush a strand of hair from her face, the softest of smiles breaking through. Ethan's gaze softened, the usual hardness giving way to vulnerability. In the hush of twilight, the space between them became a bridge, and in that silent accord, their hearts aligned. The climax was neither loud nor frantic, yet it carried the full weight of emotional revelation. Ethan's confession, tender and sincere, transformed the ordinary cabin porch into a sanctuary of intimacy. Ella's chest tightened with a rush of emotion as she absorbed the depth of his words, understanding the rare courage it took for him to lay bare his heart. They stood together as the prairie exhaled into night, hands almost touching, souls finally meeting. The wind whispered through the pines, carrying a universal truth. Love often blooms in quiet, patient acts, in the courage to be seen fully and to see another in kind. Ella let herself feel the entirety of it, the fear, the hope, the undeniable joy, as Ethan's words lingered in the space between them. The stars above, distant and constant, bore witness to this transformation, a moment of slow-blooming love that promised more than either had dared hope. And in that delicate, thrilling pause, the world held its breath for two hearts brave enough to meet.